Hi everyone, what a session. We ended up getting the gap up and continuation from the after hours yesterday. We said 517, if it went, we could get that gap fill. And sure enough, we ran all the way through the morning session, did hit this consolidation, hit the gap fill, down 1% on the gap fill. But so far into the close, we have held those gains. Can we hold them into tomorrow's session? Let's take a look at the charts. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So in news today, we got Tesla earnings. The auto sales were down 20% and they did miss on estimates, so not great. Revenue plunging 20%. Stock is down 41% for this year and was little changed on extended trading, which honestly makes sense to me a little bit. The stock has obviously been beaten down. I don't think auto sales are the point of this company at this moment. Right now, people are buying the AI story. They're buying the robo-taxi story. They are buying the Optimus story. They are not buying the automaker that is Tesla. And that's part of why I think this company just is not going anywhere on this earnings. You can see earnings per share, 27 cents. Revenues missed as well. And like I said, the stock has not moved. We have not gotten that forward guide yet. We haven't heard Elon talk yet. So maybe something else comes out about that, or maybe he hypes up all of those other projects that Tesla is involved in. But net income plummeting 71%, not great at all. And of course, this is on the back of all of the geopolitical risk. The political affiliation of Elon with the White House and Doge has not done well for Tesla. But with a stock that's down 41% year to date, you could argue that all of that is priced in. There is a lot of risk. And if any of this really came off, we could see Tesla start to surge back towards the 300s or potentially even 400s if some of that risk came out of the stock. So this is where we're at, and I think we're basically fairly valued if you're pricing in the potential for robo-taxis and all of those other things we talked about. Moving over to fear and greed, we did step up to a 24 from a 21. I think we said 22 yesterday, but 24 today makes sense with the step higher that we ended up getting. Pretty good. You like to see it. Momentum, still extreme fear. Strength, still extreme fear. Breadth, still extreme fear. Did see a slight step up there. Want to see what that looks like on the charts later. Put call ratio, still extreme fear. Volatility turning back down. Thought we might get a reacceleration to 40 there. Didn't work out, at least for now. Safe haven demand, still turning back down, still extreme fear. But look at this, junk bonds turning a little bit higher. Maybe we're starting to see a little bit of stabilization in that recession call, which maybe that starts to give markets a little bit of strength. I don't think that means we're going to rocket higher, but I do think that means maybe we don't rocket lower either. Moving over to the economic calendar, you can see that 2-year note auction did come in a little bit better there than the previous, so that's good. Want to see yields start to come down a little bit. That should be good for markets. I would expect that those have come down a little bit today, just based off the price action we saw in equities. And then for tomorrow, you have a bunch of that soft data, new home sales, fairly interesting 5-year note auction. And then for the Thursday, you have core durable goods, existing home sales. Atlanta Fed GDP continues to be negative in expectation. Want to see that turn up a little bit, but I just don't expect it to. Moving over to the charts here, starting off with the S&Ps, we do have a potential for a higher low setup here coming off of that SMA. Momentum back to bullish. Nice little update, 2.6% in the after hours, bouncing a little bit more. If we get some follow through on this tomorrow, you could see a really nice push here to this trend line. About 7%, 8% would take us into this kind of consolidation range back here. Maybe we find the momentum to kind of fill this gap back to April. That would be interesting. But this looks nice. This is interesting. Still very much a downtrend. The structure is not broken, but you do have this low, higher low thesis. Do we get a higher high follow through? Certainly remains to be seen, but I do think this has a lot of potential now, at least in the short term. And it's not to say that we haven't seen this before in markets. You can see it here. We held a nice little base, rallied up, popped above these kind of consolidation highs just to fall back into it, and then we got a big washout from there. So if you're on the bull side, don't get too excited quite yet. This doesn't mean that we're off to the races with no overhead resistance. There is absolutely overhead resistance. You can see right now we're at VWAP. VWAP is 530.38, and we are right at it. So we're going to see if that zone resists or not, or if we're going to follow through to that higher high, certainly potential. And then look at that after hours price action. I wonder if there's something coming out of the Tesla earnings call that's driving price here. We'll take a look at the Tesla charts here later, but right now, very consistently bullish, momentum bullish, RSI bullish, probably going to get to at least overbought conditions. In terms of levels, you have 531.47, might hit that in the after hours today. Next level for me would be 535.72. So you can see my bold lines are my more important levels. Went right through this one, makes sense. Once we were above 517, we were looking for that push, and so far so good on that. Your target would be that 535.72 level. Moving over to the SPY charts here on the Tasty charts, you can see we pulled back right to that 8 EMA. 527.18 was the level, 527.05 was the close, so we were right at it, waiting to see if we could get above it. And so far we have in the after hours, which would take you to the 21 EMA, 538.03 on the daily chart. Still very much bearish conditions. Your trailing stop there is 559.74, so plenty of room here to the upside, and you would still be in bearish conditions. You do have to keep that in mind. But looking at that 4-hour chart with that after hours price action, you can see the trailing stop there, 533.48. Do we reject off of that zone tomorrow? Can Tesla drive us through? Can the rest of earnings actually give markets a little bit of a pop tomorrow? Certainly a possibility. Again, you have that 89 EMA, 538.23 in that same zone of resistance that we talked about in the same consolidation here as well, back from the 14th and 15th. Moving over to the NASDAQ here, you can see up 2.63%. We did hit almost that VWAP, that 9 EMA zone. Momentum back to bullish, RSI bouncing off of the SMA. We said this was a possibility. We were going to see this touch, and we did. We got the touch, we got the bounce. Markets like it from here. Are we in bullish conditions? I don't think you can say that quite yet. This is obviously still very much a downtrend, and I do believe that this is going to continue to downtrend, but in the short term, it seems like we found a slightly higher low base. Can we rally up, hit the 21 EMA around the 457 area? That could be interesting. After hours, tons of movement again from that Tesla earnings. You can see it here on the hourly. What a move. Huge push up 1.8%, headed towards that next trend line there at 453.50. Momentum bullish, RSI almost overbought already on the hourly chart. And in terms of levels here, you can see 446.65 was the zone of resistance. We touched that level, broke down from there pretty big, 1.22% from that level, almost touched the SMA on the RSI, held the zone, and then look at that rally. The next zone after this trend is 459.02. Moving over to the Tasty charts here for the Qs, you can see that push after hours, 450.76. The resistance there is 453.91. Do we bounce off that level? 89 EMA there as well, 455.91. So this is going to be a pretty important zone of resistance. You can see that 89 was resistance here. Same thing here. But so far, low, higher low, higher low, push into this zone, high, high, potentially lower high. Are we going to consolidate out? So far, that lowest ATR band did end up holding, which means we might get some sideways consolidation and then a potential change in trend if that does last long enough. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, both of these having a nice move after hours as well. So not everything is centered around Tesla here. You can see the Russell is up to 190 above that 189 level, above VWAP. 21 EMA is going to be resistance there as well. At 191.66 we'll see, but momentum bullish, RSI bullish, again, same thing. Low, higher low setup. This even looks better on the Russell with a low kind of consolidation, very shallow dip and then rally. Looks like we might get some moves here to the upside after today's close. You can see the Dow all the way up at 396, the next level 398.76, and then above that is 404 at that 21 EMA. So again, everything looks pretty strong, even with the Dow looking terrible yesterday, broke below the SMA and then bounced. Everything seems to be finding some strength here in the after hours. Moving over to the Mag 7, you can see Mag 7 was up 3.11% right to the level. 249.41 was resistance, and then after hours 253.63 after hours, looking for that next zone 265.08. 21 EMA in there as well at 262.71, but again, same kind of structure. You do have that low, higher low setup, which can lead to some pretty strong relief rallies, at least in the short term. Does that mean this overall structure is going to change? Probably not. Can we get a ripper of a rally in the short term? Absolutely. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft, both of these having a good day as well. Again, I thought we'd get a little bit more follow through to the downside. We ended up gapping and rallying, and now we have a gap down, gap up on Apple. Not quite as strong here on Microsoft, but a nice move. Momentum stepping towards bullish here for Microsoft. And it seems like everything is getting pumped here after hours. You can see Apple up almost $5, Microsoft even more, up close to $7 there. So big push on both of these, and it seems like we're going to get back into these consolidation zones if we get the continuation tomorrow. And moving over here to Tesla, you can see it's up about $14 now in the after hours. Huge move. After we got through 232.57, that was the level, and then we were looking for the push here to 264, and so far that continues to look like it's in play. It's worth looking at the RSI there. You can see it's still below the SMA, so there's a possibility for a rejection there, but if this momentum continues to carry forward and we get maybe more clarity on what was said around China, maybe this continues to play here, 264, 280, maybe the 200 SMA is in play. That would be interesting. But again, everything looks slightly bullish after today, even though we're still inside of this same consolidation that we've been in really since mid-March. And then looking at NVIDIA here, same kind of thesis, up 2%, came off of the level 95.74. I was hoping we would touch 90.69. We just did not go any lower. And then after hours, big push, $4 in the after hours, looking to push towards the trend line here. That would be around 103.30, and then the next one is 106.64. And then just flowing through these here, same thesis as everything else. Got a nice little update in terms of levels here for Amazon. You got 181.41 as your next target with the push in the after hours. 174 was the level, but we are through that after hours. Looking for the trend line, looking for that 21 EMA, and then looking at Alphabet here. We're already into VWAP, 9 EMA sitting in there at 156.75, 21 EMA there, about $1 higher. And then your next resistance would be 161.59. So it seems like markets are starting to buy into the idea that we could get some relief rally, a stronger push here, especially if earnings are okay and we get some news that the China tariffs are not going to be quite so bad. Moving over to staples and discretionaries, got an everything buy here today. Everything sell yesterday, everything buy here today. Momentum back to bullish. We're getting a resumption. You still got that clean higher low setup potential on discretionaries. Staples never really pulled back that much. Now we're getting through this consolidation high here, back to this next zone up in that 83.43 area. After hours, we're already almost there, so really strong on that. 1.42%, and then discretionaries 3.16%, and then you got Tesla driving as well, so everything looks good there. Next zone 189.38, 193.81 would be your next level. Moving over to breadth, huge pop on breadth here today, 145% on 20-day breadth. Sounds like a big number, but really we're still at 35% here for 20-day breadth. But are we going to get a push into that 50 range? It seems pretty likely at this point. And then looking at 50-day breadth, nice little pop there. It's still not above this high yet at 26, but we are back above the 21 level. We did hold this level kind of momentum bullish, RSI bullish, and you have to look for a potential move here to the 40s. Again, is it going to be a change in structure? Probably not, but in the short term, you can see some really powerful moves. Moving over to the dollar, look at this here in the end of the session. Massive moves, 0.5% continuation here. On the day, we were up over 1% for the dollar, round tripping that move from yesterday back into this consolidation. The next level is 99.83. But this news surrounding China says the dollar could go higher. Unsustainable tariffs on China. The question is, does it stick? Does China start to make a deal? Or is this going to become an even worse trade war? Is this just a little bit of talk with nothing substantial behind it? It's hard to say as of yet. Moving over to the bond market, as you would suspect, they had a good day. 0.38%, TLT popping as well, 0.5% in the after hours, even more, up about 50 cents, momentum swinging to bullish. We're still below the SMA there, but looks like we have a nice little base. Is this going to hold in there? Obviously remains to be seen, but with the news and the moves here today, I would expect this to rally up here a little bit more. 89 would be the target for your next level. Moving over to the VIX. The VIX is still in the same consolidation range that we were in yesterday and really for the last 6 days here. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days of consolidation in this zone. 21 EMA, lots of trend lines, momentum bearish, RSI bearish. I thought we'd get a little bit more follow through in today's session, but it did not work out that way. ended up gapping down and falling back to this zone of support. It is still a zone of support. We have not broken structure there yet, but with all of these after hours moves, I would guess that this is going to push through at least to the 26 area, maybe as low as 24. Moving over to my accounts here, I did a lot of trading and really did not make any money. In fact, I had to fight back a little bit. I was long into the up move. That was good. And then I tried to fight it a little bit. That did not work out. And then we had that nice down move mid-session, made the money back, and then I pretty much stayed out of the market from there. I still was not fully bought into the idea that markets could rally as strongly as they are now, but you have to trade the markets that you have. We are clearly moving higher. The news around China, the news around earnings says markets are not as bad as they seem. And if we do get a little bit of retraction around China, markets are going to continue to run here, at least in the short term, in my opinion. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of Tesla. Is it a buy at these prices? Can Elon drum up excitement around his return to Tesla and kind of pulling away from the Doge involvement? And what about this pullback around the news and China about tariffs potentially being brought down a little bit? Is the trade war over? Will that bring relief to equities? Let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.